Yeah, what's happening? We about to bring that action. Gotta hold it down for my Seattle Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. We going beneath the waves. Get it hype, step onto the ice. Ready for some action. Release the Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. Going beneath the waves.
Welcome, everyone, to the Beneath the Waves podcast, your weekly source of all things Seattle Kraken and beyond. I'm Derek.
I'm Heather.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Matt.
It's episode 22, and we've got a great show for you this week, including all the latest Kraken news, a breakdown of last week's games, a check-in with Coachella Valley, and we'll take a look around the hockey world in the sound table. Heather, why don't you let us know what's happened this week with the Seattle Kraken?
All right. I'm going to start with some injury updates because we have good news this week. So since we last spoke, Chandler Stevenson was back in a regular jersey for morning skate. It was on 3/27, but he didn't take line rushes and he didn't end up playing in the Oilers game. At that point, Coach Bylsma was saying that he was still day-to-day, but he was back in the lineup on March 29th versus the Stars. So happy to see that. We're always glad when a player can come back from injury, and I'm thankful that his doesn't seem to be too bothersome. So we're glad to have our Stevie back in the lineup. Other news this week, Riker Evans played his 100th NHL game Tuesday against the Flames. I'm still a little bit it kind of blew my mind a little bit to think that he's played that many NHL games at this point. He still seems like a little baby player to me. And I forget, no, he's been doing this a while now. So good for Garth. Excited for him with that. After scoring 5 goals in the second period against the Oilers on Thursday, the Seattle Kraken set a franchise record for most goals in a single period in a home game. So that is a wild stat. That game, when we get there, just insane. And then finally, last and maybe the biggest news, or maybe just the news we've been waiting to hear be official, is that the Kraken were officially mathematically eliminated from the playoff contention Saturday, March 29th, when the St. Louis Blues defeated the Colorado Avalanche. They are the 4th team eliminated this season. So I'm just sort of glad to just have the official notice come out, because we knew it was very unlikely that they would kind of claw their way back to get a playoff spot or even a wild card spot. But it does feel nice just to sort of have that be official. And now we can just let them relax fully and play games, have some fun, lose, get a better draft position, and just enjoy some fun hockey.
I am stressed out, though, because officially being eliminated from playoff contention is one thing, but the thing that the Kraken end up doing is they actually end up playing really well because all the stress is off them. So I really hope they don't, come out of the gate here and win every single game for the end of the season and just blow our opportunity at like a top 5, top 10 pick, because that would absolutely suck.
I went to Tankathon today just for fun and, ran a sim, and Kraken ended up being in the second spot. And I was like, that's cool. I'll take that. What are they now, like 5th from the bottom or something at this point in the standings?
Yeah, I think around there, because they were the 4th eliminated. So that would make sense.
Yeah. So anyway, that is officially news, and I'm just sort of relieved to have that done. But Alex, you're absolutely right. They do come out swinging when the pressure's off, and I hope they do that just enough to play some fun hockey and then lose by 1. Like that's the goal at this point.
Exactly.
Right?
Play like 90% of the game, then sub and grew for the last 10 minutes, and then get the L.
Keep it competitive, and then just pull the goaltender with like 3 minutes left. Mm-hmm. Like, wait, you're winning 3-1. Yeah.
Unless we're playing the Capitals.
Yeah, because, Ovi can't score on Joey. Like, that just needs to keep going on forever.
Yep. Agreed. I was thinking this week, considering the Kraken season is wrapping up and we're looking to the off season and beyond, it would be a good time to chat about the Firebirds and more specifically about our prospects there. We're kind of seeing them struggle right now, as we've talked about, without the firepower of Yanni Newman. And it made me think about the reality of these players and when or if they'll be NHL ready. As the team that hopefully develops and gets these players their NHL call-ups, it's something that we kind of have to look at. Are these players developing on a path that gets them to the NHL? And if so, are they going to help the Kraken with their current struggles? I thought we kind of have a discussion about some of these players that we hear about a lot and we talk about a lot when we get to Desert Dialogues. kind of get a feel for where they are in that process. And a few names I had in mind, Jager Furcus, Edward Chalet, Ryan Winterton, Leighton Road, Jacob Melanson, Logan Morrison, David Goyette, Ty Nelson, and Ville Ottavainen. Obviously, anyone else you had in mind, but how are we feeling about these players or anyone else on the Firebirds that we're sort of keeping an eye on?
So when it comes to Firebirds players, there are a lot of top end talent, like prospect related, like because they're all young. So I think that's one thing that you have to keep note of. Just to highlight some of those names that you brought forward, I think Jager Fergus needs a year or two still to develop in the AHL. He needs to develop, whether that be size, I think is the key important one because he's a smaller guy. So he needs to figure out, if he gains a little bit extra muscle, then that's going to be something that's going to benefit him down the line. And that could put him in the, second or third line type role. I don't think he has the skill set to be a top line player, but I definitely think he has the skill to be either a second or a third line. That's just kind of the vibe I get from him. Edward Chalet is the one I've highlighted numerous times. He has the ability to become, I would say, a second line player who could, really take on that role and be beneficial to that team next year. But I definitely think that he might also spend a year in the AHL. Ryan Winterton, I love the guy, but I think he is cementing himself as a third or fourth line player. I don't think he'll even scratch the surface with the Kraken next year. I think he'll play in the AHL again, which definitely makes, his NHL career with the Kraken, kind of on the fritz there. You don't know if they're going to deal him at that point or, down the line. Leighton Road is the interesting one, in my opinion, because he's shown flashes of brilliance, but it's also at the AHL level. So, you want to give him that opportunity, but at the same time, I don't know where you're really going to slot him in the NHL lineup right now. Jacob Melanson, fourth line guy, but he brings the fire every single night, so we know exactly what you're going to get with him. Logan Morrison, I think the ship is sailed on him. I don't think he'll have another shot with the Kraken. He'll either stay with the Firebirds for the remainder of his contract or he'll be traded at some point. David Goyette is another guy that I'm not too sure on. I don't think we've really seen enough of him with the Firebirds, so it's really hard to tell. I think he's going to spend at least another 2 years with the Firebirds and kind of go from there. Same with Ty Nelson. Ty Nelson's another one where I think he needs to kind of round out his game. He's still young and he's a smaller defenseman. So, I think if he's going to be that offensive firepower that we want as a defenseman, he really needs to figure that out and really, hone that skill. So when he does come up to the Firebirds, he can jump right in right away. And then Ville Ottavainen, I kind of see him as a seventh defenseman. Not much is really highlighted for me that he's really gonna, stick out and be like a Riker Evans. Because when Riker Evans went to the Firebirds, everyone was like, he's going to the Kraken. There's really no debate on that, and it's kind of shown. But with Ville Ottavainen, he's that fringe NHL player right now who could translate over to a bottom two role, but right now he's firmly the seventh man or top line defenseman with the Firebirds next year.
I mean, yeah, you guys are always doing your desert dialogues each week. So you guys are the resident AHL experts on the pod. But just from more of an outside view, I don't really watch a lot of, or any AHL. Who am I kidding? But it kind of sounds like there's a similar theme among all of the players that we currently have. Besides maybe Newman, where they aren't really ready right now to take that step. And that kind of makes sense. Just monitoring the Kraken media landscape, we don't really see like a lot from like Shala or Goyette or Furcus of like, oh, they're going to be coming up next year. So I think I agree with Alex that it would be at least another year for a lot of these guys to move up. One that I really want to see move up is Ty Nelson. I remember watching him at prospect development camp a couple years ago. I just really liked his shot is just booming. So once he's good to go, that'll be fun.
I am really hoping that Yanni Newman has done enough in his little stint with Seattle here to earn himself a spot on this team, on this roster, the main big show roster for next season. He currently has 6 points in 9 games, which I think is certainly impressive, especially when you want to compare this to the other Firebirds who have had some Kraken time this season. We have Mitchell Stevens, who has 3 points in 28 games. John Hayden has 2 points in 14 games. Ryan Winterton with 1 point in 8 games, and then Jacob Melanson and Ben Myers with 0 points in 1 and 8 games respectively. So I think compared to those guys, he's really been doing a great job since he's been called up. When it comes to who should come up next year, of the names that you mentioned on that list, the only one that really jumps out to me is Ryan Winterton. He has 17 goals and 18 assists this season with the Coachella Valley Firebirds. He has had some reps, like I said before. He has had 8 NHL games with the Kraken, so he's got a little bit of experience under his belt there. So I think he has a chance at coming up and filling that spot, building up that experience and kind of bridging that gap between the two clubs. And in terms of who I want to see, which I think might be different realistically than who I think should come up, who I want to see and who I'd love to see is Jager Furcus and Edward Shawley. I wanted them to at least get 1 rep in with the Kraken now that our season is officially toast. We got nothing to lose, so we might as well bring some of these young blood guys in to build up some experience for them, build up their resume a little bit. One other name that I kind of have a little asterisk by that I'm curious about is Cale Fleury. He has played games with the Kraken, especially recently, rotating in on that bottom line defense. So I'm really curious, does he earn a spot with how he's been doing this year? Or are we better off in the long run re-signing Josh Mahura and keeping him around, and then maybe just bouncing Cale back and forth? Also, a major vacancy that will potentially need to be filled next year will be our backup goalie role if we do end up buying out Philip Grubauer. With our 2 options we have down at Coachella, Stezka definitely has the experience over Coco. Despite having a losing record this season, he does have a save percentage over 900 for the past 2 seasons with CV. So I think that's pretty good. Coco himself has had a great debut season in the AHL with 18 wins in 28 games. And he did have that unexpected NHL debut when Joey got pulled from that one game a few weeks ago. So maybe he's got his toes dipped in the water now. He could feel a little more comfortable. We can get some more reps under him. But I'm just curious, do you think any of these guys have an actual shot at backing Joey up next season? Or are we better off just trying to pick up a backup goalie during free agency at the end of the season?
We should talk about the goalies because it's an important conversation as well. And we're seeing some success actually with Victor Ostman coming up from the Mavs too, which is interesting. So I do think our goalie situation is pretty good at this point too. But yeah, let's talk about them.
How old is Ostman?
23.
Yeah.
Okay. Because am I tripping here, or between Stezka and Coco, it would 100% be Coco, right? Because like his numbers are, I feel like, a lot better, and he's like 21. And Stezka's like 28. It might, like, I don't watch either of these guys. You guys do. Am I tripping? Should it clearly be Coco, right?
So Osman's actually 25.
24. Oh,
24, 25, 24. Yeah. So he's older than Coco. But a note with Stezka is he's a free agent this year. And I don't know if the Kraken are even going to bother re-signing him.
Yeah.
So that kind of leaves the whole discussion up. It really leaves the whole debate up, everything up for debate, because if Stezka walks, hypothetically, you buy out Grubauer, you have Joey DeCourta as your 1A, you have a missing piece as your 1B or as your backup, and then you have Victor Osman and you have Nicholas Coco in the AHL. And the way I kind of look at this is then you have Nicholas Coco and Osman share the role with the Firebirds, and you just go out and you go get a backup goaltender. It just kind of works like that, because I still think Coco's too young.
That makes sense. He's 21, but he's playing more than Stezka, who is older in his career.
Yes.
He has like 3 more games played. He has like 0.6 of a better goals against average, and his save percentage is like 8 points higher. So it seems like Coco has the stuff to go early.
And both the Firebirds and the Kraken are counting on Coco, at least in my eyes, as being the next goalie up. Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel good about that. I didn't even know Coco was performing like this. I feel really good about that.
No, he is really fantastic. He's just young, and he's also playing. He's played in different leagues, so like it has been an adjustment for him to play here and play at the AHL level. But I really feel like he's found his stride, especially recently. Like these last few months, he's played lights out. He's been really amazing, especially for his age and experience. So I feel good about it too. Like Coco, I think he's definitely our future, just not quite yet.
No, and I think you need to be careful with goaltenders too because they develop later. So like Joey's coming into his prime right now, and he's still, and he's an older goaltender, but he's still not like that 30 range. So the way I've kind of looked at it is that you're gonna have Joey for these next 5 years and kind of see how that plays out. Coco's still gonna be young. Like at the end of this 5-year contract with
Right.
Joey, Coco's going to be like what, 25, turning 26, coming into that prime. He'll probably come in as a backup sometime in between there, and
Yeah.
probably and that 1A, 1B
What would
will
you say we
really
should
start.
shoot for? Like 23 years old for Coco to be a backup?
But it's hard to kind of decipher that because like the way I kind of look at it is I think at 23 or 24, if he's playing to that degree,
If he continues playing the way he's
yes, no,
playing right now
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at 23,
absolutely.
I think he's
Yeah,
good.
but if he's
Yeah,
playing this well at
100%.
22, you're going to throw him in as a backup because he's going to be cheap. And so you're going to have this really cheap solid backup goaltender who could even possibly, fight for that 1A position against Joey. Because goaltenders are weird. Goaltenders are
Mhm.
voodoo. So, in
That
3
is
years'
true.
time, we could be totally talking about how, Coco is the number one goaltender, Decord is the backup.
Grubauer's winning the Vezina back on
Funnier
Colorado.
things have happened. So, I think you need to kind of take this, especially with goaltenders, you got to take it a year by year basis. Because if Coco comes flying out of the gate next year and he's just lights out and, the Firebirds are 23-2, hypothetically speaking, out of 25 games, you know, first thing, I don't think the Firebirds are going to be like, we want to send Coco up like this. We don't want him to go up. He's
Yeah.
he's doing great here, but the Kraken could be like, Joey's going to be playing way too many games because our backup is insert name and he's not good. We need to bring up
Yeah.
a reliable, backup. But then again, the jump from AHL to NHL is huge. And I think we saw that in the first game with Coco. The team let him, hung him out to dry, but at the same time, he's got a lot to learn.
Yeah, I was just thinking that about him. I wish he had been able to play a game under different circumstances because that was such a rough entry into like your first NHL game. That was really rough having to go in for a goalie that's been pulled. Like that's tough. So I wish he had had a better chance at that. And I don't think they're going to do that the rest of the season because they really do want it to be Joey and Gru right now. And I get that, but it is too bad because it would have been nice to just have him have one game where we got to kind of see a little bit more. But, again, I do think he's young and I think he's going to develop really well, but just, I don't think we'll see him next year at all.
Yeah. I don't see a huge problem with Coco coming up and having bad games right now. I kind of go back to like when Joey came up 2 years ago before last year. I remember he kind of got shelled a couple times, but
Yeah.
I was actually just looking at Joey's numbers the year before last. So last year, obviously, Joey impressed everybody. But 2 years ago in Coachella, he actually had a worse goals against average than Coco has right now.
Yeah.
So like,
No, I don't mind Coco coming up and playing bad games. I just
Yeah.
didn't like that his one game that he got to go in
Oh,
for
100%.
was that
yeah.
being in for
Yeah.
Joey who got pulled. That's the part that sucks, But
Mhm.
I'd be totally fine if they let him come up and play these games that it doesn't matter if we win or lose and let him get some reps. Sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It also kind of still goes back to, the Pacific Division in the AHL is
yeah.
absolutely nuts.
They're not
So
going to
you-
do it.
So you don't want to send Coco up
Mm-mm.
because they might not make the playoffs, and it's kind of crazy to actually say that. So they need I'm surprised Newman is still with the Kraken at this point.
Man.
Like they desperately need goal scoring, and
Yep.
Newman is that guy.
Yeah.
But kind of going back to the whole Joey when he played with the Firebirds, the reason why he got the opportunity to come up and fight for a spot with the Kraken last season was because of the run he had during the playoffs. He had an incredible season, but that run in the AHL playoffs was on a different level. Like if you go back and even look at some of his stats, they're just monstrous. Like he had probably
Yeah, he had a 2.22 goals against
was
average and a
insane.
926 save percentage.
that's Herculean. Like that's just insane.
Yeah.
And the fact that they didn't win, I'm still on that they didn't win
too.
the Calder that year. But if Coco, if the Firebirds do make the playoffs this year and they, and Coco comes flying out of the gate and shows those types of numbers, then maybe the Kraken look at this and be like, maybe he's ready as a backup.
I
Like,
mean, clearly Grubauer's not ready as a backup, so
well, let's be serious. We're not going to see Gru on this team next year. But
yeah, so might as
besides
well
the
just throw
point,
anyone in there.
but I think my biggest thing that I really still like lean on is I don't want them to throw Coco into the NHL too early. And that's where I really set at this. When it comes to players, if you want to send them up
Throw
for
them in.
5 or 6 games, why not?
Yeah.
Because like it's the experience. You can send them back down and they'll learn from that. Goaltenders of voodoo. You don't want to kind of play with what they deal with. But like, when it comes to the players, if you want to throw Winterton or like Furcus or any of those guys up for a couple games, so be it. I got no problem with that. But just yeah, I think leave Coco where he is, and especially possibly leave him there next year.
I mean, just looking at real quick, just looking at historical precedent with Joey though, because I don't think we messed up Joey. In 2021, we gave him 5 games, and then in 2022, we gave him 5 games. He didn't do very well in those, but
Hmm.
they might have helped. I don't know. Don't
Yeah.
change the formula from Joey. Cook everyone up just like Joey, and
Yeah.
maybe they'll turn out like Joey.
Bring Coco up for 5 games. Let's keep it consistent, right?
Seems like it
um,
works.
Yeah, and I think as far as the rest of the Firebirds, just to kind of round out this discussion, I do think that there's some, like Alex said, there's some really good talent here, and it's interesting now because with Yanni Newman up still, we're seeing them sort of gel in a different way, and they just played 2 really dominant games, and it was interesting because it was people like Yager Furcus that kind of stepped up, and Logan Morrison, et cetera, that kind of stepped up and started shooting. And it's kind of nice to see that because, when you do have somebody who, I mean, Yanni Newman was the star player, right? Just plain and simple. So when you have somebody like that, it's not that they take away from everyone else. It's just that they're going to come out every night and perform, right? So now they have a little bit of room for people like Yager Fergus to show up a little bit more. So it is kind of fun to see that. Like now I'm seeing, we saw Ryan Winterton perform a little bit more this week and all of that too. So it's kind of been interesting, but I do think there are a lot of players that we will see on the Kraken, but I do think some of them just need more time, and maybe a lot of them will have killer off seasons too, and really work on these things. Like we keep saying about Yager Fergus though, like he needs to gain size, and it hasn't quite happened. And I don't know, maybe that's just not something that's going to happen, and that's okay too. Playing at the AHL, like I always say, there's nothing wrong with it at all. It's just I don't know how much these players are going to help with the Kraken and what they need at this very moment. And I think that's something else they're looking at too.
If we continue to see this with the size of our current Kraken roster, drafting Furcus, drafting Berkeley Catton.
Berkeley.
If these people don't work out because of their size, it's something that the front office needs to evaluate, because we can't just keep drafting these guys that are like super small and just
Yeah.
expect them to overcome physics. It's like if
Yeah.
that's just not a thing, it's not a thing. Just move on.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is, if these smaller players that are very much more, that speedster puck handling type players aren't going to pan out with the team, because as much as this has become a speed game, there's still an element to, the body checking and that rough aspect of the game. Newman can do that. I have no worries in Newman whatsoever, but like we've all mentioned, it's Yager Furcus, he's a smaller player, the same with Berkeley Catton, and I think you need to kind of look at it being like, if they don't pan out, then this team needs to do a complete 180 on how they're drafting. Like you can draft the skill, but you need to draft bigger, because at the end of the day, let's be serious. If Alexander Ovechkin's coming down the wing and you got Yager Furcus, chances are Ovechkin's going to plow right through him and then score, and that's just the case. So unfortunately, if this is how the game's going,
Mhm.
progressing, going back to that heavy hitting type, speed game, then we're in a world of hurt, because none of these players are going to really be able to make an impact. They're
Yeah.
going to be those 3-4 line players. And with this team and with this ownership and with management definitely saying that, oh, we're just doing a retooling, you're not going to see any of these players in the NHL next year. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, whether good or bad, that's just the truth of it. But yeah, it's interesting. I really have enjoyed watching Coachella this season, though, just because it is fun as we're watching our actual draft picks come up and play. Like it is really fun because this is, it's new, and it's that cycle that's starting, and so it is really fun to watch. So hopefully everyone's kind of keeping at least a little bit of an eye on these up and coming players too. Derek. Just kidding.
I was gonna say you guys are my eyes and ears for down there.
We do our best.
Considering you literally walk away every time we do our desert dialogue chat.
Hey, I have the headphone in. I'm listening while I get water.
Every time it's like, oh, I gotta pee, and then he just runs away. This NHL season has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out, and games left for you to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you are new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. NHL and NHL team marks are property of the NHL and its teams. Copyright NHL 2025, all rights reserved.
And as is tradition with the Beneath the Waves podcast, there were 3 games that happened between the date of the last time we recorded and the date of today's recording. And that was Game 72 that was at Calgary with a 4-3 overtime loss. We streamed that game. And thank you for everyone that came and not only just donated, but also watched as we donated to the Kidney Foundation of Canada. Huge game there. That was really fun. There was also Game 73 that was at home versus the Edmonton Oilers, which was a 6-1 W. And then Game 74 at home against the Dallas Stars, which was a 5-1 loss. What are you guys thinking as far as your talking points for this week?
Okay, so I need to start this one off with first giving a huge HUGE, all in caps, bolded, underlined, thank you to everyone who came by our YouTube live stream last week. This was our charity stream for the Kidney Foundation of Canada, and although the stream and the game itself, admittedly, started off slow, the excitement of the third period and overtime made this a very exciting experience. We were raising money based on different results that happened through the evening, and my biggest shoutouts have to go to Jordan Eberle for scoring and Brandon Montour for getting to that fight, which brought in big donations to our total. I also need to extend a special thank you to some of our amazing community members who made donations to the fundraiser. We did not need to do that, but it really warmed my heart to see that happen, so thank you so much. And in the end, this resulted in a final total of $120 being donated to the Kidney Foundation of Canada for their annual kidney walk that we will be doing in June here in my city with myself, my wife, my family, friends, all that. So again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me, and we got to watch some good hockey in the process too. Now, as far as the game actually went, I think this certainly checks the BTW box of let's have a game be entertaining, but we ultimately want a loss. Jaden Schwartz moving up to tie Ellie Tolvanen in this game, who seemed pretty non-existent, was a great sight to see, especially with it coming on the power play with the help of Canner and Berkey. Jordan Eberle continues to return to his old self with that game-tying goal, and I'm glad that the team continued to show a bit of fire in their play, with yet another scuffle breaking out and Monty throwing hands and eating a couple punches like they were absolutely nothing. The game against Edmonton this week was an absolute blast to watch. We ended up taking the 2 points, which is less than ideal with our mission statement we've had lately, but it was an entertaining 60 minutes of hockey. Sure. It was maybe a little easier for us since Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl were out, and Edmonton had to play their AHL goalie due to Skinner being kneed in the head by Mikko Rantanen the night before. But in the end, they don't ask how, they ask how many, and in this case, the how many was 6. The Kraken absolutely went to town on Edmonton in that second period. At one point recording 3 goals, 4 if you put a little asterisk to it, due to Shane just having a little bit of a case of the zoomies within a 3-minute time frame. It was awesome to see Canner score a non-empty net goal again in what could easily be another squiddy contender with that reverse baseball swing out of midair that he knocked in. We also had another goal for Berkey, another point for Mikey E since joining the team, and a 2-point night for Yanni Newman, who I mentioned before, just impressing with those 6 points in 3 games. And lastly, we have Jaden Schwartz netting 2 goals in 2 minutes and continues his powerful performance this season. The only bummer in this one for me was that Joey wasn't able to secure that shutout, but again, very entertaining game, great result, even though we don't really want those points at this point. Now for the Stars game, admittedly, I was not able to catch the Stars game on Saturday, but it doesn't seem like I missed too much looking at the results. I do love to see Tolvey scoring another goal to keep his race with Jaden Schwartz for the top goal scorer so close. Seeing Stevie back in the lineup is awesome. And lastly, I feel I've been mentioning this guy's name every week, and I just did in that last little chunk that I talked about. Mikey Asamont coming in from Tampa at the trade deadline, just doing his job that he's here to do on that 4th line role, getting points on the board, and I just love to see that. I wouldn't be upset if next season we had Mikey hanging around to play with the Kraken again.
Okay, so Flames game. You know what? I think these kind of games are fun when they're behind and they come back. I think that 4-minute power play that the Flames got after Brandon Montour's high stick was sort of the momentum shifter for the Flames in that one. Overall, though, like a fun game. I just feel like they didn't give up. And to me, I don't know, that to me is like, I know I say it so much, but that to me is like one of the identity markers that I want them to have, is just never giving up, because they didn't really have anything to play for. Like not that we were mathematically eliminated at that point, but we're pretty close, right? So they could have just thrown in the towel. They could have just given up. And I appreciate that they didn't. I think the biggest complaint I have is that we don't really need these 1-point games. Like, it's not helping us with the draft picks at all. Like, it's not helping us with the draft lottery. So these loser points are kind of like, ugh. Somebody that stood out to me, though, is Mikey Asamont. Like, I'm really liking his play. He's actually a really smart player, and he's had a couple of really great games. Just he's seeing things on the ice, and he seems to be going to the right places at the right time. And I really like that about him. So I was kind of noticing that in the Flames game, too. Oilers game. What even was this one? Like, I just don't even know. Like, I mean, the Oilers had a lot of things going against them, right? They had players out, injured, all that stuff, but we'll take a dominant win over them any day. Yes, even when we don't really need or want the points, like, we'll take a win any day. Successful coaches challenge, always welcomed. We have, I think, some of the best video coaches with Tim Ohashi and Brady Morgan. Tricky one, but Coach Balsma said he wasn't even sure it would go our way, but it did. So I love that. The Kraken just took over in the second period, which I also just love to see. I was kind of checking out the press conference, and Darren Brown from Sound of Hockey asked Coach Dan how the period kicked off like that, like the second period. And he acknowledged Mikey's forechecking, which he put pressure on Jake Wallman of the Oilers and eventually got the puck to Schwartz for that tap-in goal. And that really changed everything for the game. So there's Mikey again, just making really smart plays. He's not even on the ice like a huge amount, but when he is, it is noticeable. So I really like that about him. 3 goals in less than 2 minutes. And it actually would have been 4 if that Eberle goal hadn't been offside. So I don't know. What can you say about that one? Just really, really fun, fun hockey. And, especially as we're going down the stretch, like, we're holding on to these kind of fun games. Like I said, maybe we didn't need the points, but man, it feels good to beat the Oilers like that. This last game that we had against the Stars, the first 10 minutes, actually, the Kraken kind of played better, if I'm being honest. At 1:27 into the game, Tolvey had a goal off a rebound opportunity that was created by Canner. So, it started off really well, but Dallas was working to clinch their playoff berth, and they showed up quickly after that. That's just how it goes, right? They were ready to, punch their ticket, and they did. So, our power play was awful in that one. Like, there was a couple when they didn't even make it to the offensive zone, terrible. And we actually also had a hard time stopping their power play. So I think special teams it was a special teams nightmare. Kind of an ugly game. I also kind of expected it to be, especially with the Dallas Stars having something to play for so important. And then how fun that they get to repeat this game on Monday when they play the Stars again. Just fantastic. So I don't know. We had a couple of really fun games there, though, to be honest. And then the Stars game it went as I thought it would go.
So, just really quick takes on mine. Calgary game was a lot of fun, mainly for the fact that we played right down to the final minute with that Jordan Eberle game tying goal within like 2 minutes or so, and ending up losing in overtime. So getting that pity point, but really, just a fun full 60, and not securing the 2 points, so like it helps us with our draft. Like I'm fine with that. So those types of games are fun. Second game, so well, just a little bit of note here. I fell asleep during the game against the Edmonton Oilers in the first period, so I missed the 5 goals in the second period, which is depressing to say the least. But one player I want to highlight is Yanni Newman. 6 points in 9 games. You know, he's doing everything right. I think that's just something to really highlight for that game. Another goal and assist that game. Was it a goal and assist or was it
I think so.
yeah, goal and
Goal
assist.
and assist.
So, just another, great effort from the kid. Um, yeah, and then I really do like how Mikey Asimov is really been playing. He's going to be a UFA in the offseason. I would really hope that the Kraken actually sign him because he's one of those fourth line guys that you want. You're going to get him cheap. He's going to be like your Brandon Tanev, but like costs like 1/4 of what you would pay Brandon Tanev. So that's the type of player that I really like. And then it's just, and I think the other thing I want to mention is that Joey Daccord had one hell of a game, and some people mentioned because when I woke up, I was like, oh, I'm just going to check the score. And I said, wait, we beat the Edmonton Oilers by how much? And then it was, wait, Joey had how many saves? And, he finished the game with 36 of 37 saves and had a save percentage of 973, which is just absolutely wild. So, that's a Joey game. Like that's just straight up a Joey game. Dallas Star game, my power went out, and it's like the hockey gods were like, "You do not want to watch this game."
Yeah.
So we're gonna send a blistering, freezing rainstorm up into Ontario and just knock your power out for literally 2 hours, and that was during the time of the game. So like
Amazing.
like message from the hockey gods to be like, "We're gonna save you from this disaster," because oh boy, a 5-1 loss is a stereotypical, and B, it was, from what I saw, well deserved. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to see this rematch tomorrow. And when I say that, I mean, good God, it's gonna be bad.
Might be really busy tomorrow night.
Yeah, Alex, I wish the hockey gods were as considerate to me because they probably just would have taken out my power for the last 2 consecutive years of Kraken hockey. But not all of us are as fortunate
Ouch.
as you. And I just wanted to say the 4-3 overtime game that we streamed, once again, thank you for showing up if you did. But I think we all absolutely hate Calgary at this point. At least I do. Starting to just really, really not like Calgary. But I think it's awesome what the Kraken have been able to do lately against different opponents. Obviously, with the Oilers, they didn't have McDavid or Draisaitl, but Calgary, vying for a playoff spot. They're not a bad team, and the Kraken just kind of took it to them for a lot of that game, especially the second half, and they were leading in expected goals 4.3 to 2.7. And doing that to a basically a fringe playoff team, like when your season's completely over, it just kind of makes me think of sort of like replacing an engine in like a really bad old beat up looking car or something. It's like, okay, maybe next year we can, replace the paint and stuff and get it running like correctly and stuff. But I think there's some good stuff under the hood right now for the Kraken. And it's also good, when we don't get those points, but I like to see the performance. For the Oilers game, pretty historic. And just Jaden Schwartz, going on a tear. By the way, if you do the Sasquatch NHL predictions, go Schwartz every single game for the rest of the year. I think that'll be a good bet. And really, you're just seeing a lot of guys that it's fun to see them score. You got Burakovsky, Beniers, Newman. You had Cartier in the Flames game. Um, McCann got one in the Oilers game. So you just a lot of guys where it's like, oh yeah, that's I like seeing that. Not to say that there's any Kraken players that like you wouldn't want to see score, but I don't know, just seeing Beniers and like Newman, that's awesome. And then yeah, I also wasn't able to watch the Stars game, but I'm glad I wasn't able to.
Didn't miss much.
No.
Yeah.
Just the Tolby goal.
I was at the
A
Mariners
minute and a
game.
half in, Tolby
This
goal,
is
and
bad.
that was where it ended right there.
That's
Literally, you could
awful.
have watched the game for the first 2 minutes and you wouldn't have missed anything else
Yep.
afterwards,
Those
which is
ones are the
shocking.
worst. I
They're
mean,
the
no, the
Yeah.
worst
worst.
ones are the shutout ones that you've been doing person, Alex.
I'm so
That's true.
glad. I'm so glad though I didn't stay up till like 10:30 to watch
Mm,
that game. Could you imagine like them
no.
scoring a minute and a half into the game and then it's like, oh, we could actually do something. And then it's just sitting there for like another 2.5, 3 hours being like, we have done absolutely nothing. Like I would have gone to bed
And the
regardless. I would have gone
Stars
to sleep.
were scoring quickly too.
Yeah.
It was like I looked, it was like 3 and then 4 and then 5. I was like, no, terrible.
Can I just mention one of the things I was just looking at? There's three things I want to highlight just in regards to all three of these games. Tolvanen has been incredible this season when it comes to goals. Like he's really broken out this season.
Yep.
Jaden Schwartz, like where has this man been for the
Yep.
last 3 years? This has been incredible. And then Jared McCann has had one of the most silent 50 plus point seasons of his career,
Yeah.
in my opinion, because he has not been able to find the net as much as he normally has. I believe he's got like 16, 17, or 18 goals. It's not many, but like he's put up like 30 plus assists. It's been a very quiet season for him where I think he's very frustrated as a goal scorer, but he's done very well to, tally on those assists to, get 50 plus points. He could easily finish the season with 60 points. Like I wouldn't be shocked by this by the end of the season, if he had 1 or 2 games where he got 2 or 3 points. And I think that's just something to highlight because we've really, talked about how Jared McCann's been our number one goal scorer, but he has really been able to figure out his game this season to be like, I'm not scoring. It doesn't mean I'm not going to produce. He's still our
Yeah.
leading point player for the team. And it's all coming off the assists, which I think is something that if next season comes along and he clicks both goal scoring and assists, 80 points. I'm calling it. That's my wild bet for
Your
next season.
bold
80
prediction.
points. Let's go at, like 30 goals, 50 assists or something along those lines. But I definitely think that, if Jared McCann can figure it out next season, he could be absolutely dynamic for this team. And we are going to talk about some more Coachella Valley Firebirds down in the desert with the Desert Dialogues. And there goes Derek. He's running off. All right, we're going to talk about the first game. It was on Saturday, March 29th at the Chicago Wolves, and it was a 3-2 overtime win. So this was a fun game, and not just because the Firebirds won. Ryan Witterton had 2 goals on the night, his 16th and 17th goals of the season. Ty Nelson and Max Lajoie each had 2 assists in this game. Logan Morrison and Ben Myers each had an assist as well. The game was tied 2-2 going into the second intermission, and neither team was able to score in the third. So this one went to overtime. In OT, Ben Myers got the puck to Yager Furcus, who wristed it past Spencer Martin for the win. That was Furcus's 12th goal of the season. So, like I said, we've kind of talked about it in the past, previously about the, all these young players. Furcus has definitely figured out his game in the AHL, but I think he just needs to develop it more. But 12 goals on the year in his first year in the AHL, can't complain.
The Firebirds then played the Chicago Wolves again, one of these mini series on Sunday, March 30th. And this was Victor Osman's first AHL shutout, which I love. It was a 4-0 win. Ben Myers opened scoring late in the first in this one. Yager Furcus had his 20th assist. So again, we're talking about these players racking up these points. And I also feel like I was talking about there's a little bit of room now for these players to kind of come in and play a little bit more. Brandon Biro had his 27th assist on that goal. So again, racking up some points here. Early in the second, Logan Morrison had his 13th goal of the season, assisted by David Goyette. And then late in the second, Yager Furcus put the Firebirds up 3-0 with assists from Edward Chalet. And that's his 15th, which again, quietly racking up these. And Max Lajoie, his 32nd assist. Are you kidding me? I mean, amazing. So these players, we were being critical of them at the top, but I mean, really, there is talent here that we're watching. So David Goyette made it 4-0 for the Firebirds with his 5th goal of the season in the third, and then that had assists from Logan Morrison and Ben Myers. So this was a multi-point game for Ben Myers, Yager Furcus, Logan Morrison, and David Goyette. So just an overall dominant game for them. And it really helps in the standings for them to have these kinds of games, and I think it's also good for their confidence. I just want to point out a little bit of news too with the Firebirds really quickly because they actually signed forward Justin Janicki to an AHL contract for the 25-26 season. He's 21 years old and he was drafted by the Kraken in 2021 in the 7th round, 195th overall. He's played the last 4 years at Notre Dame, so NCAA, but he's a senior this year. And in his final year of the NCAA, he scored 15 goals and added 19 assists for 34 points in 38 games. So he's going to join the team this season on an amateur tryout agreement. So that's pretty exciting. I'm liking seeing, again, we're talking about these drafted players kind of come in and play. So pretty cool that we're seeing that kind of come to fruition with that too. If you want to watch the Firebirds this week, they play Wednesday, April 2nd versus the San Diego Gulls. They play Friday, April 4th at the Henderson Silver Knights, and then Saturday, April 5th at the Henderson Silver Knights again. Our top Firebirds this week, we have Ben Myers with 45 points in 50 games played, Logan Morrison with 40 points in 64 games played, and Max Lajoie with 36 points in 63 games played.
And now we're going to the AHL standings where it's absolute chaos, especially in the Pacific. So Coachella is currently in 4th place with 77 points in 64 games played. They're just behind the Abbotsford Canucks, who have 77 points in 63 games played. So, Abbotsford has played one less game than Coachella, hence the 3-4. The Ontario Reign are in second in the division with 78 points in 63 games played. And the Colorado Eagles have clinched a playoff spot, and they sit in first with 84 points in 63 games played. It is neck and neck. We could see if the Firebirds are able to pull off 3 wins next week against the Gulls and the Silver Knights, then they will secure a playoff berth. But if they lose 2, or if they lose 3, or even if they lose 1, it's it really is dependent on how the other teams play over this next week. It is going to come down to the wire. I still do believe that they're going to secure playoff position, but they're definitely not as strong as they have been over the last couple of years. But having said that, you're going to see the likes of Cale Fleury, and you're going to see Yanni Newman come back down from Seattle in a couple of weeks probably, and that's just going to bolster their lineup because Cale Fleury has been one of their top defensemen this season, and Yanni Newman has been the star of the show for the Firebirds. So, yeah, overall, if you haven't been watching AHL hockey, you still have time to watch it. And especially with the Kraken, sailing off into the sunset in the next couple of weeks, you're going to get to watch some AHL hockey with the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
And that's going to take us to the sound table. The sound table is our weekly roundtable discussion of all things hockey related outside of the Seattle Kraken organization. And we're starting this week with a major change that has come to the Philadelphia Flyers this week, as the team has parted ways with head coach John Tortorella. Torts coached the Flyers for 3 seasons, recording a record of 97, 107, and 33 behind the bench. The 2-time Jack Adams Award winner was the oldest active coach in the league, and his team had gone a month without recording a regulation win at the time of his firing, and had been outscored 52-21 in the 12 previous games. Assistant coach Brad Shaw will be stepping in to fill his position through the rest of the season, and John Tortorella is the 5th head coach to be fired this season.
Well, I think one of the things with John Tortorella is it's actually really funny because he just quit. Like that last press conference that he had was just him quitting, being like, I just don't care anymore. And that was it. And I just want to say that Matvei Michkov has just gone off since Tortorella got fired. So I think it's just kind of ironic, but that's John Tortorella for you. Like he just kind of marches to the beat of his own drum. He'll be back in the NHL somewhere. Some team will pick him up, and we'll just get to hear great one-liners from him for the next couple of years. But that was too funny when he's just like, I just don't care anymore. I'm not going to adapt, whatever. And it was like, well, you just signed your own ticket. You're out of here.
It's so like Torts branded though for him to do that. It's like, so I don't know, the whole thing was like so funny to me though. I just kept watching it unfold and I was dying. It's just funny. I mean, I'm like, I don't like anyone to get fired, that sucks, but when it's somebody like that who literally just said, in not so many words, but I'm just done, hey, you knew what you were getting into. But yeah, we'll see him again
soon.
I actually have a surprise for you guys and for Matt. I'm adding to the sound table this year. Or
Whoa.
not this year.
This year.
For the first time
What?
this year. There's a guy I want to talk about, okay? He scored the first ever goal in Kraken history. He's 6 feet tall, 190 pounds. He plays center for the Chicago Blackhawks. His name is Ryan Donato. He makes $2 million a year. He's a free agent this year. He's going to be turning 29 next year. He just got a hat trick. He scored like 6 goals in his last 3 games or something. No, actually, yeah, 6 goals in his last 3 games. The hat trick was against VGK. The 2 goals were against Philadelphia. He's going on a tear. He's ninth in the league for goals for per 60 minutes of play. He has like a 17 shooting percentage right now. He can play winger. He's not just center. And he scored the first ever goal in our franchise. Probably has a deep connection to it. He's on a horrible Chicago team right now. I think we have an in with him. We can probably not pay him that much. Dude, watch out for Ryan Donato. That's my sound table contribution.
So Alex is against this, clearly. I'm going to say I'm for it. I love Ryan Donato. I would welcome him back any day. I just don't know if he's scoring that much and playing that well because he's on the Blackhawks. That's the other thing. But
True. His
but yeah.
usage did go up to 16 minutes per game. But yeah, I'll just read out the stats. 72 games played, 29 goals, 30 assists for 59 points. So he'd be the best on the Kraken this year.
I'm not opposed to it. It's just my biggest worry is what that contract is going to look like. He's 29.
That's fair.
So
He need to give the hometown discount. He need to give us that.
it's not happening because it's going to be his first time ever getting the pay.
Yeah, he's
payday.
got to get his bag.
So,
Yeah, he needs a bag, man.
he's going to be looking for like a 5-year deal, 5-6 year deal that's going to get him to the end of his career. And because he's had his career season, the guy's going to be asking for money. And I'm not talking about like 3 million. I'm not talking like 4. He's going into this going, I want 5+. The salary
Like,
cap's
you mean
going
like
up.
7 years, 6.25 per
He's-
year, like
he's
Stevenson?
He's getting
I wasn't gonna say that,
5.5,
but-
6 mil. Like I'm gonna call it. He's not going to Seattle. Some team like Utah is gonna panic, or like
Put Stevenson on a plane.
Blackhawks are gonna freak and be like, we want you to play on a line with Bedard until you're 90. So here's $7 million.
That's true. They're going to be desperate.
Yeah.
I have no issue. I would love to see Ryan Donato play with the Seattle Kraken again. Logically speaking, it doesn't make any sense for this team because I know he's had a career year, but
As an aside, though, for the sound table, amazing that he's had this career year. He's
Yes.
playing completely lights out.
100%.
17% shooting percentage is unreal.
oh,
So awesome for Ryan Donato.
Oh, I'm
Yeah, but we-
really thrilled for him.
we also know what happens with shooting percentage.
True. True. But good for Ryan Donato. We miss him in Seattle. Just as a human being too. Good guy.
As the season winds down, the 2025 NHL playoff picture is starting to take shape. The Capitals, Stars, and Jets have all locked down their playoff spots, and 4 teams are preparing to hit the golf course: the Kraken, Sharks, Predators, and Blackhawks. There's still quite a bit of room for shuffle, especially if you were to look at the Eastern Conference wildcard race. There is just a whole lot of mid happening there right now. Lots of teams jockeying for a position to try to steal that last spot. In WHL news, future projected number 1 draft pick Gavin McKenna of the Medicine Hat Tigers finished the WHL regular season on a 40-game point streak. Absolutely crazy. During this stretch of 40 games, his point total was 100 points, which I think is just absolutely nuts to think about. It is going to be very exciting to see in next year's draft, when his time should come, who is going to scoop this kid up.
Like, can the Kraken fail miserably next season, get the first overall pick, and just sign Gavin McKenna? Or like draft him? Because like if you want that generational talent, that is Gavin McKenna. Cousins with Connor Bedard. There must be something in that bloodline, because like that's just, those are beast numbers, like absolute beast numbers. Yeah, just crazy. Like if we thought he was, he blew the WHL by storm this year, like next year in his draft year, it's just going to be absolute chaos.
And now it's milestone time. We only have one real milestone to pick out this week. On Thursday, Pittsburgh Penguins captain Sidney Crosby broke the NHL record with his 20th season, averaging at least a point per game, breaking the tie that he held with Wayne Gretzky. I feel like every other week we're highlighting some sort of major achievement by Sidney Crosby, so hopefully he keeps it going. This is certainly a big one here. Now, in our regular closers for the Sound Table, the PWHL Takeover Tour made its final stop on Saturday in Raleigh, North Carolina, in a matchup between the Ottawa Charge and the Boston Fleet. 8,578 fans turned out to see Ottawa take the win with a score of 2-1. If we look at the attendance numbers across this takeover tour, the Seattle game, the first of the tour, ranked 6th out of the 9 games played with an attendance of 12,608. And now that the takeover tour has concluded, we will all eagerly be awaiting the news of the PWHL expansion, which is expected any time now. And our closer that we have every week for the Sound Table, it is Ovi record watch time. Alexander Ovechkin, as of the time recording, which is Sunday, March the 30th, is sitting at 890 goals, only 5 away from beating Wayne Gretzky's record of 894. If you did not see goal 890 from today's game, it was an awesome little between the legs redirect. Go give it a look on YouTube or Twitter if you haven't seen it. It was certainly a stylish way to close that gap. He needs to score these 5 goals in 3 games or less to accomplish the feat faster than Gretzky did, and the Capitals have 9 more regular season games remaining this season for Ovechkin to try to make that record happen. And that concludes this week's Sound Table. Heather, would you like to let the folks know what our week ahead looks like?
I would love to. So the Kraken play Monday, March 31st against the Dallas Stars at the 7 p.m. start. Repeat of the other game. Hopefully it'll go better, though. Then the Kraken are going on a several-game road trip. They start in Vancouver against the Canucks, and that is a 7:30 start on Wednesday, April 2nd. And then they play in San Jose against the Sharks, and that is on Saturday, April 5th.
And with that, Matt, could you let the people know where they can find us online?
Absolutely, I can do that for you, Derek. Make sure to go out and sub to the YouTube. We have one more live stream watch along happening this year. Stay tuned for when that is going to be. We want to try to hit 100 subs on the YouTube before the regular season's over. So if you haven't made it over there yet, go check it out. Hit that follow button, and we'll hopefully see you there for our next live stream. You can always check out the store. We have some awesome clothing available. We have our Joey design. We have our Monty Maney design. We have our The Price is Right design, which is a big fan favorite. We have our BTW gear as well. So head on over to bit.ly/BTW store to check out what we got. And lastly, please drop a follow and a 5-star review on the podcast app of your choice. We love hearing your feedback and hope that we get some more of those rolling in. And as far as where you can find us online this week, for those who aren't familiar, during my day job, I am an elementary school teacher. And right now in my English class, we are talking about poetry. Specifically, limericks came up the other day. So to practice what I preach, I have prepared a little poem for you. The season is basically done. It's been one hell of a run. But at the end of the day, we at BTWSEA are still here to bring you the fun. Take care, everybody. Have a great week, and we will see you in your feeds next week.